Welcome everybody to this webinar or YouTube live video as part of Save Your Photos Month. So for the whole month of September, we have been bringing you different topics that are relevant to photo organizing, managing, telling your stories, all the amazing, with lots of amazing guest speakers. And I'm really excited for this second session because what does it mean when you get your photos organized, right? How about meeting some real clients? It's like a peek behind the curtain. But before you do that, make sure that you click and subscribe to our channel so that you'll know all about the different events that we have coming up. And so we would love, and also to like it, add some comments and things. Also, if you have comments and questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll make sure that we have plenty of time to answer those. So I'm thrilled to have 3 different professional photo managers with their 3 different clients. And we're going to start out with Patty Hopp today. Patty is a certified photo manager since 2016 with the Photo Manager. She's been doing this a long time. And she is also a certified privacy advocate. So Patty, why don't you come on and bring on your client and introduce her and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Oh, this is exciting. And thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this interview. Growing up, I had very few photos taken of myself. So once my children were born, I started taking lots and lots of photos. And once I had hundreds and hundreds of photos, I had to find something to do with them. So I started making photo books and scrapbooks of my children, doing everything from playing in the sand to having play dates, birthday parties. And I started showing them to other parents, and other families started asking, can you do those for us? We want those photo books. We want our children to be able to see that and not just have photos stuffed in a box in the closet. So that's how I got involved in it 22 years ago. Today, my staff and I work with clients here in Michigan, which is where I'm located, as well as remotely. And today, my client that I'm introducing to you and who has offered to do this interview with me is Susan Ripple. I met Susan when she and her husband, Dan, lived in Michigan, and they were moving back to Texas. They had just retired, and they were moving to Texas. Susan called me on the phone, and we chatted for a little bit. We set up a time to meet at her house. And I went to her house not knowing really what to expect other than knowing that they were moving. So I'd like to introduce you to my client, Susan Ripple, who is now in Texas. We first met in Michigan, but she is living in Texas. So we met here, and then we've been able to work remotely. So Susan, welcome. And please tell us what your goals were when we first met and what you were looking for.
Well, first of all, I had collected pictures for so many years. When my grandparents died, I was the one that went and got the pictures out of the drawers and out of the boxes and kept them, put them in tubs. I went to my mother's house when she had a flood in her basement and rescued the pictures, laid them out, read about how to save them. And so I'd put them all away safely, and I intended to organize these. And through the years, of course, I had taken my own. I had thousands of slides, thousands of pictures, and then thousands of digital pictures. I still have 86,000. I just looked on my phone, the digital pictures that I've taken. So I just had so much, but I never could get around to archiving them, digitizing them, and organizing them. So my goal was not only to save them and preserve them and the memories, but also to tell the story for future generations to know. So I was looking for somebody to help me do that. And I was so afraid of moving at the end of the pandemic. We were hearing stories of families whose belongings never made it to their final destination. And you can replace furniture and clothes and dishes and knickknacks. You can't replace pictures that are one of a kind, that are your memories. And so my big concern during that time was to save and preserve the pictures. And then later on, through learning, Patty taught me other things could be done, like tell a story. And so she's helped me with that learning too.
Oh, thank you. I remember the first time I met Susan, walked into her house, she had boxes from floor to ceiling getting ready to move. And we spent the entire morning going through photos, and I ended up bringing back an entire vehicle full. Back into my Jeep was filled, brought it back to my office. Took us a long time to work through it. So, Susan, since I'm here in Michigan, you trusted me to take your photos while you and Dan and your family moved off to Texas. First of all, what was it like leaving your precious photos? You just talked about how important they are to you. What was it like leaving those here with me in Michigan while you moved to Texas? And also, since you work for the FBI, I'm sure you're a little skeptical about people. So how did you overcome that, and how did that all work out?
Well, Patty, first of all, you had a wonderful website that gave me a lot of confidence that you knew what you were doing and that you were legitimate. When I talked to you, I heard the true conviction in your voice about family and archiving and telling the story, much like they heard you say a while ago. And then when I met you, no concerns. I felt like that you were savvy with electronics, we could communicate, and that they were in good hands. I had no concern about it after I met you.
Well, thank you. I felt the same way. Susan and I connected right to begin with. Within 5 minutes of being in her house, I felt like we knew each other for a long time. And our relationship, even though we've been working, what, 3 years, our relationship still continues. And it's very important to me, and you've shared that to you as well, that part of our friendship has been part of our relationship with your photos.
Right.
Susan, can you please share some of the work that we did for you? I know that I've shared that I have a lot of photos that I brought back, but can you share some of the stuff that we've done, and how your family is enjoying your photos now?
Absolutely. One of the things that I was impressed with, by the way, is that you came back after I scooped up all of the rest of the memories that I found out that you could digitize and share with us. And so I had you come back and you met me at the hotel as we were the
Nice.
night before we were driving out of town for good. And she
Yeah.
filled her Jeep up again. And so there were a lot of photos. And so the first thing that happened was I got home and I'm trying to, well, my suitcase didn't arrive. So I was trying to find clothes, but I got a nice message from Patty asking me for my family history. And so I got on to my ancestry site and I printed out pictures of people and gave her a family tree to work from. And then the next thing that happened, I got requests for me to identify people that didn't quite fit into the ancestry model. But it was so much fun looking through all of those pictures, giving dates, times, events. So we got to do this on the fly. And then I got a message that we were going to meet, and Patty gave me an update. And, before I knew it, 6 months, 7 months had passed, and there were 1,800 pictures digitized and organized, and they had names with them. And I could type in my grandmother's name and find all the pictures that she had digitized of my grandmother. So I got this idea to have her make a jump drive, and she knew up front that I wanted to put these as a screensaver on my smart TVs in my house. So it was easy for her to do that. But I had an idea to get a Nix Play frame, put those pictures on it, and take it with me to an event that we were holding for our 3 children and our 3 grandchildren in Las Vegas. It was just a family reunion. It was a great meeting place. And I just set the frame out and let the pictures play. And I can't tell you how many people ask questions. Who's that? What's that? Who is that? Mama, what were we doing there? And so all of these pictures played. And so at the end of the session, I asked each of the kids, did they enjoy that? And do they think they would like to have something like that in their home? And hands down, everybody wanted one. So Patty helped me put together all of these pictures, and we put them on a frame for each family and send it to each one for Christmas. And I have a subscription for each one of them to be able to see all of the photos that we have subsequently put up there, and they can put their own up there. So, and then she made me 3 backup hard drives, and my discs are playing. I don't know if you can see, I'm going to turn this a little bit, but can you see the TV right up
Yes.
here?
Yes.
I play these pictures all the time. So every room that I'm in working, everybody gets to see pictures of the family. And we talk about it all the time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been a real joy working with you and your family. And I met Susan's son as he was getting ready then to move to Texas a few months ago. I had some things to return to Susan, and so I got to meet her son here in Michigan. And I saw him and I said, "Oh my goodness, I get to see you in 3D. I'm used to seeing you in 2D. This is great." So we chatted, and because of working with Susan's family and all of her photos and the photos of her children as they were growing up, I knew so many things about her son. I mean, we talked about different things. Oh my goodness, I saw your college graduation, your high school graduation, your children. I even know, their child and his wife,
Yeah.
know a little bit about all of them. And it's been a joy getting to know their family. Susan told the story about taking her Nixplay digital frame on a family vacation. She even sent me a photo of her family sitting around looking at the digital photo frame as they were on vacation, enjoying, I think they were having a beverage and just sitting there enjoying each other's company. The grandchildren were around, and it
Yeah.
sparked a lot of conversation, a lot of memories probably for your children they may have
Oh,
forgotten
yeah.
about or didn't even
Right.
know. Maybe there's stories they didn't even know. So
Oh,
it was a
that's true.
great way
And
for
there's
you.
still stories they don't know. They're still asking questions.
Oh,
So it's fantastic. We have Zoom calls on Sundays after church. And invariably, because we sit right here and they can see pictures and something will prompt a question. And so it's always fun to get to tell a story.
yes. I think that's what the photos invoke. We see them and kind of bring up some memories there.
Yeah.
Susan, what would you say is the biggest benefit to having your photos organized and digitized for your family now? What do you see your kids doing with them in the future? What's the biggest benefits that you're seeing from them and from hiring someone to do it to get it into your life at this point now?
Well, several things come to mind. One is the relief that I feel because I felt so concerned and a heavy burden actually for having taken all of these pictures from my grandparents, and I promised them that I would archive them and get them out to the family. And the same thing with my parents, and my siblings are saying, "Where are the pictures? We had pictures. Where are they?" So
Mhm.
I've been able to share with them. And so it's a big relief to be able to honor that promise. But it's also gives me so much pride to be able to share what my family has done historically, the things my dad did, the things my great grandfather was a Texas Ranger and he guarded the border, and I get to tell that story. And my grandfather went to college and had a college degree, and he went to Honduras to a Chiquita banana plantation in 1921. And here's a picture of him counting bananas going onto a ship. And my grandmother played basketball in college on a scholarship in 1922. And, you get to tell those stories, and my kids are going, "What? They went to college?" And so we get to have those kind of stories. That's the benefit. And then another benefit is I do ancestry to further that goal. And I'm able to share pictures of people now with those remote families that didn't know what these people look like. So I put those pictures and events and history into Ancestry and share them. I have about 21 connections that I'm sharing all of those pictures with.
Wonderful. I'm sure those people appreciate it too, because I'm sure you have photos that they didn't have. So it's nice that you're
Yeah.
able to get those up there and actually share then the work that we've done and be able to help them include that in their family trees.
Right. And I've also been able to share what Patty does with some of my colleagues that work for Dow Chemical in Midland. And so it's been really nice. People don't know there's photo organizers. You guys really are something special. People are busy living their lives, raising their families, just trying to keep their job. And so when you can't get to the photos and archive that history for your legacy, it's pretty sad. So I keep telling people about it. I just bring it up out of the blue, and then I start showing pictures on my phone that Patty's provided. So you guys got to get the word out there.
Well, what a treasure your family has now that they're able to enjoy those photos. And with you here, you're able to share some of those stories with them. If you wouldn't have brought those photos out, your family may have never have known about the Chiquita bananas and your grandfather doing that, being right there.
We still haven't found my pie.
Well, nope, I think you froze up just a second there.
Whoops.
Oh, there.
I didn't touch it.
No, that's okay. So, Susan, what advice would you give to anybody who's sitting on the fence that's like in a situation with you that's just overwhelmed with the photos, that they don't know what to do? They have very good intentions of getting to them someday. What advice would you give to someone in that type of situation?
Well, first of all, don't wait until your mind is gone, and don't wait until you don't know who's in the picture and what happened. Don't wait until a flood or a disaster has happened and it's now they're gone, because we didn't do a lot of duplicate pictures in the old days. So don't be afraid to reach out and get to know your photo organizer, get to understand, do they have experience, do they have history and reviews, look at some of their work, and pull together your memories and be willing to set aside some time to work with your organizer. But don't be afraid. Go ahead and do it now. Don't wait till later. That's what happened to my grandmothers. That's what happened to my mother. And I didn't want it to happen to me and my siblings or my kids. And another good thing that my kids learned is now they're putting their digital pictures into all of these frames so that they can archive their pictures. So it's a learning, it's a legacy. Don't be afraid. Start now.
Oh, thank you, Susan. That's perfect. That's great advice. I know a lot of people, well, new clients, when I meet with them, they're just overwhelmed. Patty, I don't even know where to start. Said we take baby steps. When we look at it, we figure out where your photos are, what your goals are, and then we take baby steps to get toward that goal. Well, Susan, go
can
ahead.
I just say one other thing? The other
Yes.
thing that photo organizers will do for you is they will guide you in where to archive these pictures once you get them done, so that you won't lose them, they won't degrade, you have backups of backups. So don't fail to see that as a valuable part of the deal.
Very good. Great advice. Thank you so much. Susan, thank you so much for your time and for introducing and coming on, telling your story. We've had a lot of fun together the last 4 years now. We've had a blast working together. I truly value you as a client and as a friend now, and your entire family. And I thank you so much for sharing your experience with all of us today.
Well, and if anybody wants to contact me and get ideas, put my name and number out there. I will tell you what a great experience it is.
Thank you so much, Susan.
That was amazing. You did such a great job in talking about what photo band. But thank you so much for your stories. You wish you knew. I think it's grow. This is frozen for me. Are you all? Yeah. No, you're still. Are you all hearing me?
It's frozen for me for a second.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. Oh, you're
You can hear me. Okay. So thank you so much. That was great about doing this now. And so that was so wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. And next, we want to bring up our next client, which is Hale with her client, Sherry. And Hale lives in Los Angeles, California. And she's been a photo manager since 2016. She is also been an amateur family and friends photographer since she was a teenager. She previously was a producer in the Apple and Jaguar Land Rover, helping clients work with their family photos and businesses with their photos. So this will be a great treat. Hello, Hale.
Hi, thank you so much. Thanks, Kathy, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Hale, and as Kathy mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Picturely. We are a photo management studio in Los Angeles, but we serve clients all over the world, and I'm proud to say that I serve clients in 4 continents. And our specialty is very similar to other photo managers. We can take anything analog to digital, which is what we did for Sherry. We can help all of your digital. We do everything that is digital, all the iCloud, Dropbox, everything like that, bring it all into one place, take out the duplicates and curate. And of course, we also specialize in making amazing projects with it, such as photo books and gallery walls, etc. But without further ado, I want to welcome Sherry. And first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, Sherry, in this, talking about your experience. So my first question for you today is, I know that when I started working with you, your mom was still with us. And, it was, for me, I didn't get to meet her, unfortunately, but it was such a pleasure for me to be able to organize and archive your family history stuff. And excuse me, what sort of what was the impetus for you to find a photo organizer?
Well, first of all, I am so honored that you would ask me, Hale. Thank you so much. And it's wonderful getting a chance to kind of sing the praises of what you do. Um, yeah, and I will say the only reason you never met mom, because I knew that that was something we wanted to make happen, but there was something like called a pandemic or something that kind of kept that from happening.
Yes. Oh my
But so
course.
the impetus was in growing up, my mom was an amazing organizer, but, when it came to photos, I think it was just, kind of mind blowing. Like, what do you do with this? I've got 3 kids, I have a busy life, and I don't know what to do. So her organization tool were big boxes, like big boxes, and they just get thrown in there. We'd all look through the photos, and then they get thrown in there, and you had no idea what was where. So my dad passed away in 2017, and I saw how difficult it was for my mom and I to find these photos, pull together photos for his, funeral and memorial. And my brother happened to say to me, "Gosh, there has to be a way that this can all be digitized and in the cloud rather than, just loose pieces everywhere." So, so I started thinking about it, reached out to a friend who I remembered saying she was a photo organizer here in the LA area. And she had since moved away, but she said, "I have 3 people I think you might enjoy working with," and forwarded them to me. And the second I saw your website, I could feel your warmth and our connection starting. And that was why I reached out to you. I needed help to get these photos organized. And I will say, too, the rest of that story is that my mom had developed a brain tumor that was taking her eyesight. And so I felt very um, mm, in a hurry to organize things so that she could see those memories on a large TV where she could actually see them, and we could just have fun remembering things together, talking about, her parents, my granny and my grandpa and great-grandparents and all of that. So, yeah, that was it.
That's so wonderful. I'm so blessed to have been part of that experience. How did you feel before before you hired us? Like when you looked at those boxes, what sort of feelings invoked?
Yeah.
Because I
I
remember you and I met in the garage. Remember we met in the garage? We were all masked.
Yes, yes. Well, besides that, anxiety, it was high anxiety. Um, what was driving me and, just to go back a second, when then we had our children, my method of storing was to get I think I kept Costco in business. Buying the photo albums, I had duplicates because we have 2 daughters, and I'd put them in every sleeve and label those. And so, as you know, that's our next project together. But, so, that was as far as I'd gotten, but as this digital world is moving so quickly forward, trying to keep up with all of that is, you know, 30 years ago, that seemed like a great way to do it. But there's that preservation. And now that we have 3 grandchildren, I want them to have the experience of ease, of knowing who their ancestors are, whose shoulders they stand on, and easily putting together because we're all asked in grade school to put that family tree together. And they're going to be able to do that with photos. And thanks to you, they're going to be able to show their Italian grandfather's, you know, uh, his
Great
baking
grandfather.
their great-grandfather, yes. Actually, their
That's
great-great-grandfather.
right. It's your
Yes,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
when he came over from Ellis Island and became a baker, and that's documented in there. All of the ancestors, birth certificates and death certificates are in there. They know not so for health reasons, they can see what happened based on those documents. Um, and so just for ease, and then what like was a total mind blower for me was when you said we can put them all on a site and be able to put in their names, have everything come up, but you'll be able to organize them into, folders by day and time or by by date. And that was completely mind-blowing, and our family absolutely loves it.
Oh, that's so great. Do you remember that card I made as a thank you for the project? And
Yes.
you took it to your mom and she was like, I don't one of you guys was crying and it was
Oh,
just
we
so
both were.
heartfelt. It was so beautiful. Yeah.
We both were. She had, at that point, a quarter of sight out of one eye, and to be able to see all of that and then see you who had given that to us, and, I think that was just a huge gift at the end of her life, and so, yeah, it's been a spectacular gift for our family.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Now when my sister just, reached out to me, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago and said, "Gosh, remember that picture and she relayed what the story was, and I said, "It's right on the site," and she pulled it up and she goes, "Oh my gosh, there it is." So, great memories and great stories to tell.
So great. And so what do you tell? I mean, I know we all ask this, but how do you relay this to your friends and family? I mean, obviously your family's all involved. I know that you have 2 different sites with us. You have your own little private site, and then I gave you guys a family. I gifted a family thing for you guys to be able to share with the outside family. But how does working with us with Picturely, how did that exceed your expectations?
Um, so far exceeded my expectations, and the thing that I think is interesting is that, it can feel hard. It can feel like, "Ugh, that's another thing I have to do. How am I gonna organize this?" And the beauty of it was, um, it wasn't. It was so simple and so streamlined, and before I knew it, within weeks, you had everything back to me. It was all done, and, I mean, I personally culled through a lot of photos so that I could cull it down and give those to you. I went through like 6,000 slides,
Yeah.
and I did it in a night. You can move fast on these things. And but I think the thing that astounded me was that, you have this sense of remembering faces, and we didn't know each other yet. We had only just started working in the garage, separated by tables, because of the pandemic, and you were going, "Oh, so this is your grandfather on your mother's side." I'm like, "How does she know that?" And the fact that you can do that and have that facial recognition, you found things that I had put in the wrong piles. And, "No, no, 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 that's your dad's, relative." I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god."
So
So
I come from a clan. I have 114 cousins in 4 generations. And I'm Iranian, and in my culture, the name of your aunt from your mother's side is a different name than the name of your aunt from your father's side. So I sort of map things out as people talk to me. I map it out in my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's on the father's side. That's on the so it actually kind of helps that we have different names for aunts and uncles
mm,
to be able to do this job, because in our studio we start every project with a family tree so that we can make sure that we are organizing everything chronologically, but also making sure that we are recording the names of all those family members so that when we, excuse me, after we scan it, we can rename and redate the files based on the information that we receive from our clients. So I'm so glad that you were able to find that really helpful.
and you know what else, you suggested to us, because we had those, as all families do, those family mementos. It's like they're too heavy to carry around. They mean nothing to anyone else ever, but they're important to you and your family story. And you had us take pictures of those. And so you gave us the release that we needed to be able to, move past saving all of these, awards and plaques and things like that, but they're still in there and they're part of our story. So I love that. I never would have thought of that.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Sherry. And thank you for joining me today and for sharing your love of what we've created for you. I'm so glad it was helpful. And for everyone who's listening, Sherry is a founder of this really incredible platform that she's creating called Video with a PH, where you sort of scan a photo and a video pops up. So you might want to bookmark that, PHIVEDO. It's pretty cool. It's all in the works right now, but it's coming
Very
out.
close, because every picture tells a story. We want
That's
every
great.
picture to
That's
tell the
great.
whole story.
That's amazing. It's so true that the all the technology that we've interacted with in the photo space, that we get to meet a lot of companies that are just starting out. It's an idea from a need, right? It's an idea, and it's real people behind that are creating this technology. They're using technology to solve the problems they want solved, and certainly being able to hear our photos tell a story is a brilliant, through video, because we've become such a visual world that way. So what a great story. What I love hearing it. This is Hale's second time here with us. Hale's clients love her, and she is very warm. And it's nice to even hear that for people that are listening that have businesses, that your website, how you portray yourself and things, makes a difference. And the fact that you made that phone call that way. So I don't think we have any questions yet, but I do think people are excited to hear what you're saying. So thank you.
Thank you.
This
Appreciate it.
is a huge honor. And Hale, thank you for being my dear friend now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You go from being a client to a friend when you work with photos. It really is hard not to, right? Here we got one question. Diane wanted to know: is it better to start with photos of heritage or the early years with my kids, or non-digital? That's a lot.
I can explain a little bit. If you do have photos and digital, I always recommend starting with digital because it's much faster to go through digital. And there was a pretty a significant overlap between digital files, sort of between 1996 to 2004, and actual photos that people had printed. So we did adopt digital cameras, but we still had them printed, whether it was through various services. So we do like to start with the digital first, because we can catch those sort of duplicates, if you will, and not scan the photos that have been sitting in a box or in an album sort of decaying. And you want to be able to capture the original file of whatever format that you had always captured. So I do recommend starting with digital. And if you, and of course you don't have to, but in terms of starting with your old stuff, the ones that are decaying the fastest are those photos that are in sticky albums, which were notorious starting from the sort of late 60s through 70s, 80s, and 90s. And for some reason, they're having a comeback, which makes me really scared. But at least I know that all the photos that people are printing right now is from digital. Hopefully, it's not from film cameras. But start with those first. Start with the sticky albums because they are eating your photos on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody asked me that question, which too, and the chemicals that were used in those, the chemicals that were used in the early 1900s or those old beautiful black and whites were different than the chemicals, which were cheap chemicals used to print those photos in the 70s and 80s, which is why they discolor the way that they do. And
That's right.
yeah, you can bring them back to life with a good scan and good editing, photo editing software can bring it all back to life. But then you need a professional for that for sure. So,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Look forward to hearing more about your product. All right. So last of all is actually we have Philip, and we haven't had there are male photo managers, quite a few actually, and I'm excited to bring Philip up with his client Corey. Philip's out there, and looks like you're out there chopping down some wood.
I'm on vacation in Maine.
Oh, you're in Maine. You're in my neck of the woods. Where in Maine?
Just in from Camden in Warren.
Okay. Beautiful. I mean, my neck of the woods. It's 3 hours from Connecticut. So, so again, welcome. And if you have questions again for Philip has been a photo manager. He lives in Ohio, and he's been a photo manager since 2011. So he's got 4 years on both Patty and Halle. So he's a certified photo manager, and he started out by creating life books for his 2 adoptive sons. And so again, he's excited to share with you his story and also meet his client, Corey. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm Philip Griffith with my company is PSG Photo Solutions. And as Kathy said, I started back in 2011 because I was making my son's life books. And then I was helping to teach other people, other adoptive families, how to make their life books. And people started saying, well, can't you just do this for me? The other thing was back in 2011, most of the people were sandwiched in between the analog and the digital. And they were trying to go, half my kids are in analog prints and the other half, they're all digital. And how do I make a cohesive unit of my whole family? So back then, a lot of my business was scanning, digitizing, and bringing things forward into the digital element. But you come forward almost 14 years, and now the biggest issue is the digital and being overwhelmed. And it's not just about organizing. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Corey on was because he didn't come to me to organize his photos. He came to me for a different reason. And Corey, we've known each other for, I'm thinking 5 years now. We're both in the same B&I chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey, what was it that prompted you to actually sit down and say, Philip, I need help?
Well, I think there was a lot of reasons involved with that. I was looking at that point to kind of solidify me and my wife's journey together and kind of try to encapsulate that into a book of just kind of the major events. We met in 2009 or 2010. We got married in 2014. We've had 2 children together. It's been, kind of a crazy 14 years as we went through it. But we had a lot of digital stuff, a lot of digital photos that were out there. And I was really looking for this kind of wow present is really what I was looking for. I run 2 different businesses with 2 young kids, and the responsibilities of life. It's really hard to kind of sit down and do this. And I knew I would fail if I wanted to do this on my own. It just wasn't going to have the impact I really wanted. I did see products that Philip has created and through our, networking group. And I was like, wow, this is something that I would like to have on paper that we can touch, something tangible, and to be able to present it, overall. Now I knew Philip might not have known at the time that I was going to be a difficult client because I had lots of pictures and I had this concept of what I wanted to do within the book. But I really needed somebody to organize that into a way that would really tell the story I wanted, which I knew I didn't have the expertise or time to do. And that's really why I kind of reached out to Philip and say, hey, this is my idea. Can you make this a reality?
Yeah. And I was just thrilled because when we first met and I was looking at your photos, you open up Lightroom and I'm going, most of my clients don't have Lightroom. They don't want to know how to function in that. And you had things very well organized. So you weren't coming from that position of disorganization, but you needed that help of how to tell the story that you knew was there. And I love that you actually had that. That's actually part of my background was in dance and telling stories. And that's one of the things I love to do with my clients. And the difficult part was originally this was supposed to be a Christmas gift.
Originally, yeah.
And we got it for, I think, was it your anniversary or her birthday, your wife's birthday?
It was her birthday. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And the delay was purely my fault, again, as the difficult client. And again, I think this is why you need a photo manager because how many important things don't you get done without someone pushing you along? And that's kind of where I knew, from, Philip's, guidance and commercials. He said, hey, this is not an overnight process. This takes time, where in today's world, everything seems to be so fast and instant and everything else. But to create a quality product, you really need time invested. And I think with that said, I was like, oh, this will be something that we could just kind of get together and be ready in Christmas. And I think I asked him in November, and he's like, maybe. He was very kind about it, but I think he knew the process was going to take a time. And it's not just about picking out pictures, it's about picking out a story. And that created a different element as we went through, these thousands and thousands of pictures we had digitally, of what kind of story and what does each picture say versus is it just a well-positioned picture or is it a pretty picture? We needed a story with each photo that we grabbed. And that took a lot longer, but I think the result was so much more impactful and so much more meaningful to me and my family that it was well worth the time.
Yeah. And actually, that's a sort of something I want to ask you about is how did that impact your family? So we'll start with your wife. Since you gave it to her on her birthday, what was her response? How did she respond to the album?
Right. One, I kind of came off like a hero on that day. Like she can't, believe I did this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did it all. Which was completely not true. But the effort that comes along with it, her response was just overwhelming because again, you're taking 12 years for this, in this case, for the book, and putting it into a book where you can really see our life together and how it came together. And with every relationship you have, struggles and health and, people pass and all these things. So we just all of a sudden had pictures of people that, weren't in our life anymore. And it just became very, very important for us to have this kind of book and how impactful it really was. She was shocked when she got it. Me coming to work today, I was taking the book for this video, and she's like, "Where are you going with that book?" Like she was wanted to know exactly where I was taking this book. Because again, I think it shows how important it is to our family.
Yeah, and you have two kids
Mhm.
that are in the book, and we actually see your daughter there in the background in your office.
Mhm.
I love that you have pictures in your office of your children, of your family. Because I always say that pictures on the wall are like depositing into the love bank every day because you're seeing them and you're feeling that love that you have for them and that you know they have for you. How did your kids react?
Surprisingly, they were more involved than I would have expected them to be. My kids right now, at the time we had the book and deliver it, they were, 5 and 7 roughly. And you really wouldn't think at that age they would really dive into a book like this, but it was amazing how they kind of recalled certain things that happened even in their short little time here, and how we'd go through each picture and they'd be like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And I was shocked on some of it because you're like, I can't believe, this little human has that kind of retention to know, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And I'm like, you do? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So it's amazing how that's kind of morphed. And when we pull this book out, we get different recollections, and they ask me different questions about different times in their life too, which it's been really, really a good time in the sense of how it impacts the family and how we talk about our memories.
Mhm.
So that's been really wonderful.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the reasons you do a life book for a child is so that they can have those opportunities as a family to talk about what's going on, talk about their memories, talk about family identity as well.
Mhm.
So, and have other people, have you shared the book with other people, friends and extended family?
I have, especially especially immediate family, and which is probably put me on the hook for getting another book, as it goes, because again, this isn't like a normal thing that everybody has, right? Everybody has your photos digitally. Everybody has little rails that pull up, and your digital frames that we put things on. But something like this, not everybody has, and it almost becomes the picture wall in people's family. I grew up with a family that had a picture wall of past relatives and things, but they were a picture. They weren't alive. They were just, and as a kid, you just don't know what they are. Well, this is kind of what it's become. I don't see those as often as I used to, but this is now my picture wall. And my goal is to make sure we're kind of doing this a little more often than 12 years spans. But I kind of like to, have this where, every 5 to 7 years, we do another one, and by the end, I have a catalog, if you will, of my life, with my children and my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're connecting that to something you remember. And I think part of that, if it is just a picture on the wall, someone has to tell you who that person is and what their relationship to you is.
Mhm.
But in the book, and I know this was somewhat of a struggle trying to pull out from you the captions and cameos so that on every page there's something that's telling that caption under a specific photo or a paragraph or two that talks about what's going on that 2-page spread that adds to the story and really helps tell that story. Um, and so it sounds like that was really helpful with this book and made it different than just a photo album.
Yeah, I think so. I think just again, and this is of course why I wanted to go to a professional. It's you're more, as photo managers, I think that's selling y'all short. Overall is, you're really storytellers. overall. And, as we went through this and you're like, hey, you need to have a caption. You don't have to go overboard. I'm not always one to write down tons and tons, but you have to kind of bring this into a collective whole. And without these captions, without time, without place, some of the relevance of each photo goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, that's, and I think that's one thing Phil did amazingly well at working with someone like myself, that, hey, these little prompts and these little helps, really pulled it together, where I think if I was just trying to do it on my own, it would have became a book of pictures, not a book of stories. Overall.
Yeah. Well, that, and I've heard this statistic, it's been a few years, but they said about 70% of people abandon their photo books in cart because the event that they wanted to give it for passed, they didn't finish it in time, or they encountered difficulty with the technology. And, you're a very technical guy, so that probably wouldn't have been the problem. But yeah, we missed Christmas, but we got the birthday. And so, yeah, that's, I think, one of the biggest things is just knowing your limitations and going, hey, I want this done, but I don't need to do everything myself. I mean, you actually did a good job of saying, okay, here are the photos that I think I want. And I kept saying, yep, pare it down. Let's pare it down. Let's pare it down. But that actually allowed me to see your process and go, okay, here's the story you're trying to tell. And then now let's pull it together with the captions and the cameos so that it is something that not just your children, but their children will be able to look back at, and they'll know your life.
There's no way this would have happened without you kind of moving the process in the direction it had to. There's just no way it would have happened. Overall, I think there is a point where in today's world, a lot of us are just time poor. Mm-hmm. We don't have the time we need to do something correctly. Everybody thinks, YouTube is you watch one video and you're an expert. And I think there's a fallacy to that overall, where really, when you spend decades honing your craft, such as you, there's so many small little things in there that I'm not going to see as an average person that just looks at photos, right. And that's where, like, you say, okay, if people are time poor, but I would like to have a product that I'm proud of to give to my family, then you not using a photo manager makes no sense to me. Right. So to me, for the fact that I'm probably going to do another one overall says, the quality of work that I was expecting, I got, and the impact it created, I got. So, I don't, there's not enough amount of thanks to you personally for what you were able to create.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I don't know if the audience has any other questions. I do want to say that one of the things that, not just with Corey, but with several clients recently, I've realized people ask me about, what do I do with all the photos on my phone? What can I actually do with them? And then how can I share them privately? And so I did a free course that's available on The Great Discovery. I know that I gave that to Rebecca. If she wants to put that in the chat and in the notes. That's a way for people to get to know me a little better and to actually do something with their photos and get started so that they can actually then make the book like we did for Corey.
Well, first of all, thank you. So, Corey, you're like the best quotes. Like I was like, yeah, wow, that's a great quote. Like, you spent decades honing your craft, Phil, or that we photos on a page. Don't tell a story. I lost track. I mean, I quickly to them, and that, because it makes me happy knowing when I started the photo managers, 15 years ago, it was really, I always tell people organizing photos is like watching paint dry. That's not the goal here. The goal is to help people tell stories. And I love that your kids are looking at their photo book, and that, and what a great gift for your wife. I mean, how thoughtful, and it just, they're priceless, right? So, but there is one question about somebody, Lewis asked, and it would have to be for one of the photo managers, but do most professional photo managers use Lightroom or Photoshop, or 50-50? I think they use each for different reasons.
Yes. So Lightroom is more for organizing and cataloging and doing keywording and those types of things. Photoshop is more for editing, and, or when you want to merge some things together. We had a client who had taken 4 snapshots of a scenery to get a panoramic. It was before you could just take your phone and do a panorama. And so we used Photoshop to merge those together to make that panoramic. But yeah, Photoshop is more for editing and lightening and correcting those bad photos that have their colors gone off from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Whereas Lightroom is more for organizing, but you have to have a bit of technical savvy.
I think Lewis said he uses, or she, I'm not sure, uses Lightroom, but wondering if they were an outlier. So no, not in the photo managers. And then also, for a lot of our members use camera scanning, and they tether their camera scanning right into Lightroom. And so that's an uncommon way to use Lightroom. So, you're not an outlier. Great. Rebecca just put up the link to your course. So that's what a great idea to put something like that together, Philip. I'm sure it's going to be really helpful. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Corey, as well, for your time, and Philip for joining us on vacation in Maine. That was really thoughtful of you as well. Thank you. And enjoy the changing color, and the cool weather. And thank you, everybody who's joined us. Again, please like the photo managers, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. That's really important to help us with our people to find us in search engine. Add any comments that you have. If you're looking to hire a professional photo manager, any of the 3 members that you met with today would be wonderful. Or you can go to our website, join the photo manager, or find a pro, and all our certified photo managers are there. They can work remotely a lot of times, so they don't have to be in your neighborhood. And again, we're thrilled that you are able to join us. And I do think the quote that we had there was one of the best things. You wouldn't have just a book of photos. Is really, you need a book of stories. And that's kind of the work that we are passionate about. And I think all of our clients talked about how their photo managers have helped them bring their stories back into their lives, so they can share it with not only them currently today, but also long into the future. Thank you again, as always, Rebecca, who's behind the scenes managing